Welcome to Mac TV, the Mac and Jett Show. Two cool brothers with hot takes, taking on issues today in hopes for a better tomorrow.
Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Mac TV network channel on all platforms, and hit the notification bell to be notified when our new content drops. Now let's jump into the show. Welcome to the Mac and Jett Show. I'm Mac.
I'm Jett.
And we are ready to go with another show. We got a couple great topics for today's show. Again, please subscribe to the Mac TV YouTube channel. Get on our Facebook page, the Mac and Jett Live Facebook page. Also, check us out on Instagram, Twitter. And when you go to YouTube and you subscribe, please hit the bell. The drop-down box, you hit the bell so that you're notified of every video that we drop. And we will start to gain momentum here during the first of the year with a lot of videos dropping. And so please stay tuned. Be ready, because we're going to have a lot of dynamic conversation, a lot of dynamic interviews, and some real controversial topics we will probably end up getting into because of the election coming up in 2024. But we got a couple kind of light topics. The first one, they can get heated. You know, sports can get heated, but we're going to go into the CFP playoff system, the college football playoffs, and we're going to see where Elder Jett, who he thinks should have been in, how the process should work, how it does and did work, and if he agrees with it. And we'll maybe also give our opinions and maybe do some predictions as it relates to the college football playoffs. And then after that, we want to talk about 50 years of hip hop. If you guys know, you've seen there was a BET special that was out because this is the 50th year of hip hop. And there's been a lot of conversation around it. We know the regular conversation goes like this: who's the greatest rapper, who's the greatest producer, who won the verses. We'll talk a little bit about that, who our favorite rappers are, maybe give our top five, and you can give your top five. But then I want to ask some questions to Elder Jett and you guys as a community. What is hip hop? And if it's the 50-year anniversary, why are we celebrating it? What is there to celebrate? And then maybe go in as deep as we want to go about, how it's really affected the Black community. And then the biggest question that I don't think anybody can really answer or haven't answered: what is hip hop? And so we'll give our views on that here. Elder, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I can't complain.
Okay, that's a good thing, because nobody will listen, right?
They might listen, but they won't care.
They won't care. Okay, well let's start with the CFP. I did a little preview on CFP on this CFP playoff on my Peace, Knowledge, and Wisdom YouTube show, which you can catch on Mac TV. And I talked about what I thought. And then I don't know if you've heard it, you may not, but I'll let you go first. What did you think of the decisions that came out of the committee? Was it expected? Do you agree? And if you disagree, how do you think it should have went?
I can't really complain about the four teams that they picked. I don't really necessarily understand the formula, but they got four champions, and they're four conference champions in there. The ACC champion, of course, undefeated Florida State, was left out. I don't think they're one of the top four teams in the country. Also, I don't think either Washington or Texas are top four teams. I think the top four teams in the country were Ohio State and Michigan, Alabama and Georgia. But I can see justified leaving Ohio State out for sure, and maybe even Georgia, but that's a far drop for Georgia from number one all the way to out of the playoff, but they're not a champion, and all champions are in. So you could, there's 3 or 4 different ways you can critique it to put in the teams that you want to see in, but ultimately I think the 4 teams that they got will give us a good playoff, and I can live with it.
You can live with it. So then you agree with it, or is that too strong to actually say?
I don't necessarily say that it's acceptable to me.
So you understand it.
I understand it. I'm not going to say I agree with it, because it's hard to leave a 13-0 ACC champ out, even though I know their quarterback got hurt. They're not the same team. Yada yada yada. But it should have caused them to lose the game, and it didn't.
Did you see any? So wait, let me just say this. It sounded like the way you articulated how you feel is that the eye test that you said immediately, you don't see that Florida State is as good without their quarterback as any of the other teams.
Correct.
So then you understand why that's not. So you agree with that part of the committee?
I understand it.
You understand? You agree?
I would be fine either way. If they put Florida State in, I would understand. I would be fine. They're 13-0. They're ACC champs. I would get it. If you leave Florida State out and you say, hey, they're not the same team without their quarterback, I understand that they won all their games, but they just don't match up with the other 3 teams, and I don't think they're one of the top 4 teams. I can get that too.
So let me do this. You're in the committee room. It's that day. You got to come up and it's your turn to say who you think the 4 should be. Give me the reason the 4 it should be and how you would explain, with whatever rules the committee has or however they decide, what would be your case for your 4?
It depends on who my 4. You mean pick my 4 first and then explain why they're in?
From all we know of that committee over the years, and you're now on that committee this year, and you're faced with what they were faced with, who would you take 1? Who would you take 2? Who would you take 3? Who would you take 4? And why would you take each one of them?
I would leave Michigan at number 1. I think Michigan has been the most consistent and the best team all year. They beat Ohio State, which I think Ohio State is the 2nd or 3rd best football program in the country this year. So I would leave them at number 1.
Okay.
Washington could surely be in there. I could easily make a case for Washington to be out. If you're looking
it's your
at
time, it's your chance.
If you're looking at
this
the
is going to be
test,
your 4.
I've told you my 4. My 4 would be Michigan, Ohio State,
and then how would you justify
Alabama,
Ohio State?
Georgia.
So you'd have Ohio State too?
I think I'll probably would put Ohio State in at 4.
Okay, so who would you have at 2?
I'll probably put Ohio State in at 4. I will put Alabama 2, Georgia 3.
Okay.
But that's boring, because now you got 2 rematches in the semifinal. So that's not going to make for good TV. But I do think those are the best 4 teams.
Good deal. So let me tell you how I kind of revisited the conversation. You've got Michigan. I agree with what you said. Michigan has been the most consistent team all year. They've been up at that number 1 spot. They've represented it the way they should to be the number 1 seed. I believe that Washington played Oregon twice and beat them. And for as well as Oregon looked and played all year long, which they did, I think those are great wins. And since Washington was already there, I don't think they did anything to say that they should not continue to be number 2. Where I have a problem is number 3. I don't understand. I don't see where FSU deserved not to be number 3 after being in the top 4 and continuing to be undefeated. They lost their quarterback and still won their championship and the games they played without him, meaning they are still a high caliber team, may not as high caliber, but worthy because they are undefeated and they are a Power 5 champ. There's no blemish on their record. I think they should have been 3. And I think that is where the committee went wrong. I think that's where they can be critiqued. I think that's where somebody can, if I'm a FSU fan,
who do you leave out?
So now my point would simply be this. You got now 1 spot, 3 credible teams, 2 champions, 1 not a champion. So to me, the one that doesn't have a championship and a loss compared to the other 2 with a loss, but have championships, Georgia has to be out. That leaves Alabama and Texas, both champions, both with 1 loss. They're tied. The tiebreaker for me and most people are head to head. Texas beat Alabama. Texas has to be 4. And I think they made Texas 3 so that they could have Alabama be against FSU so they could then go to the eye test. Because as you said, if you're going to use the eye test, you might as well use it from the beginning. You might as well have Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, and Alabama, or Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, or Alabama, Ohio State.
Those are valid points. Now, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Which conference do you think is the best conference in college football?
Overall, I think to me, it's always been in our generations in the last 10, 15 years, it's been the SEC.
So you leave the champion out?
Yes. Because They've never been left out before because they did what they had. They took care of the business that they had to take care of to be in. So in the past, there would have been a game at the beginning of the year that Alabama would have won that game against Texas, and we wouldn't have been here. And that's why it was big for Texas. That's why it was big. It was a big game. They treated it as a big game. They won the game they had to win in that game. Alabama normally wins that game. Georgia normally wins that game. LSU normally wins that game. The SEC has always won that game so that when it came time, they were always squarely in 1 or 2. They didn't need to go. And that's just my opinion. I understand what you're saying.
Well, I think if Alabama would have beat Texas, they both get in.
And that's possible. But then, so what you're saying is Alabama will be undefeated. I'm sure they'd be in. If Alabama had won, they'd have been in. And then the decision might have been between Texas and FSU still, or Texas and Washington with one loss. Well, I'm sorry, Georgia and Ohio State. It would have been Ohio State and Georgia with one loss, no championship.
Well, then it makes Georgia's loss not look as bad if they play an undefeated Alabama, as opposed to Alabama that lost to Texas.
And I agree. And I don't think the loss doesn't look bad at all. The loss is just that there is a loss, and there's 3 other teams without a loss. And now you are put yourself with 3 other teams in a loss, but your resume doesn't have a championship on it.
Right.
So, I mean, I just think, and the reason I said it the way I said it was, it's cleaner. I think it's more acceptable that it almost looks like the numbers are telling you what it is, opposed to the eye test is so subjective.
Who's your pick?
Alabama and Texas. And I believe Texas beats them again.
In the championship.
In the championship. What's your pick?
I think the 1-4 semifinal is the de facto championship game. I think the winner of that game will produce your national champion. I have to see which Alabama shows up. Is it Alabama that beat Georgia, or is it Alabama that should have lost to Auburn?
And what do you think?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
They're like Jekyll and Hyde.
So you got to take one now.
I'll take Michigan.
Okay. And now let me just say this as a caveat, or just as a back story. If Michigan beats Alabama, I wouldn't want them to win, but I think they did what they needed to do, and they'll be ready in that next game also.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say that you. It's hard to, as an Ohio State fan, it's hard to pick Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But Jim Harbaugh, as much as I can't stand him, I respect him, not only for his coaching, but for his stance on revenue sharing with the players.
Right.
When he's the only one that's publicly said that out of every coach with a platform, that they should share, that the players should share in the revenue from the bowls and the playoff. I respect that.
Any thoughts on why you think he feels that way?
I mean, because it's fair.
Okay. So you just think he's a fair guy type of thing. He sees it for what it's. No, so, and I'm just playing.
I think he's one of the people that can see the NCAA as a racket, and he sees the walls tumbling down, and he's simply saying, if you want to hold this thing together, share the money.
So, and I just want to have something that we need to debate about. So everybody else is not fair that doesn't believe that?
They may be inwardly fair, but they're not brave enough to outwardly say it. Because
I think part of his stance has to do with where he came from. You know, he's a professional football player. He's a professional football coach. He understands that the people getting paid for what they do. Mm-hmm. I think his mentality is totally different than somebody coming up in an academic type of environment.
I'm pretty sure that his position, after beating Ohio State 3 times in a row and being in a strong position, that he could just say whatever he wants.
True.
You know what I mean? He's in a strong, and that further gives me adoration towards him, because he's in the strongest position that he's ever been in, and he has a platform, and he's in the playoff, and he chose to use his platform to empower the voiceless players. And I respect that.
We're going to have to start making sure we write some stuff down here. One of the things I hate about watching shows or we're watching people on the social media platform that predict things, is that we never keep a record and so we have to have our producer or something every now and then when I challenge you or you challenge me to make a.
Well, I picked Michigan.
No, okay, good. But I did want you to say that. But no, I was just saying that because is he leaving or not leaving?
No, I don't know that
Give me
part.
A prediction.
I don't
Give
know.
me a prediction.
I mean, I hope he leaves because I'm tired of him. I'm
tired of losing.
It's like he doesn't, he doesn't.
He done found it.
He done figured out the matrix. And I'm just tired of him. I'm ready to see him go.
Yeah.
Bon voyage. I wish you the best. Gee, I really like Jim. I wish you the best in Los Angeles or Las Vegas with your new job. You've done wonders for college football, and it's time for you to ride off into the sunset. Yeah. I would love to see him go. I don't know why he would go. He's getting as much money. He's got as much power.
Right.
He's proven he doesn't have to prove himself again. I wouldn't leave if I was him. I wouldn't leave.
If I was him, I'm not going to say what I would do if I was him. I think he's going to leave because of what happened. I think him missing 6 games this year, I think he feels about the NCAA like they're frivolous. Who are you to challenge me? You're talking about some hamburgers and whether or not I did this or did that. Like, get out my face. First of all, y'all ain't played these people in years. Good point. Like, I ain't got time to be playing with people that ain't got nearly my credentials as it relates to this sport.
That's a good point.
To be playing around.
And I can just do business.
Yeah.
I can just do business. I can hire people. I can fire people. I don't have to worry about GPAs or recruiting trips. One thing about being a college coach, it is grueling. The recruiting trail.
Oh yeah.
The camps, all the different rules. I remember Sylvia was coaching Boston College.
Who's Sylvia?
Sylvia Crawley was coaching Boston College. At the same time, a friend of ours, Vonetta Harris, had daughters that were playing high school basketball. And Sylvia had to be careful even speaking to Vonetta in public. Now, we're all best friends.
Right.
But because of recruiting guidelines and because this is not just my friend, this is the parent of a recruitable athlete, we can't engage in casual conversation. And if we do, we can't bring up how your kids are doing.
And what's funny is about that, what makes me upset about it is, and we'll probably on our show, we'll be tackling things just like this. To me, I don't mind rules. I think we need rules. I think we need to sit down and make rules and regulations. What I do not like, laws and rules, is that for some reason we forget what the purpose of them, what the purpose is. And so we just want to just legislate the law or legislate the rule, not the intent or the spirit of it.
I disagree. I don't necessarily think that we forget what the intention of the rule is. I think that we lose our ability to hide the real intention of the rule, because we will say the intention of the rule is in the best interest of the student athlete, when in reality the rule is in place to keep the revenue and to remove power from the athlete's hands,
right,
under the guise of
or anybody's hands. That's not theirs. It's not the rule makers' hands.
And I'm really ready to see the NCAA come tumbling down.
I agree.
Like the Roman Empire.
And if they didn't come up with that NIL, they would have, because people wasn't going to stand for it. So they came up with
and what they did is just found a way for the student athlete to get paid without them having to pay it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? We'll still go ahead and make your money. We'll still keep all of ours, but you go ahead and make as much as you can without touching ours.
Exactly right. And that's the thing that should still be fought, because
and that's what Jim is talking about.
Yes,
Jim is saying share the revenue.
I agree. And my thing is that soon what you'll start seeing is new rules around NIL. When I don't need you to make a rule about what somebody else can do with me, which was the purpose of what you're supposed to be doing. But no, you just You're just going to bide your time. You'll start making rules about who can do it, who can't do it, how much they can do. That's what they'll start.
I want them to do that, because that will speed up the demise of the NCAA, because you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. The kids are getting paid now, and as we're about to see, I'm telling you, if it doesn't happen this year, it's going to happen in the next 3 years, where some of these kids that are projected first round draft picks are going to stay in college because their brand is bigger. I'm telling you right now, Marvin Harrison Jr., his brand will be bigger next year as an Ohio State Buckeye than it would be as an NFL rookie. He's going to be the number one player coming back to college. He was already a
Heisman finalist,
invited to the Heisman ceremony. He would come back, and he can get his money right at Ohio State. And what you're going to see is more and more people will start to stay back. Like, why am I going to the NFL to be a rookie? When I'm the biggest thing on Ohio State's campus, I'm going to be the biggest name in the country. I'm going to get more publicity than 98% of the quarterbacks in the NFL as a college receiver. Why am I leaving? And the more you see that, the more investors are going to see that, the more sponsors are going to see that, the more money they're going to pour into it. The more money they pour into it, the more it happens. The more it happens, the more money they pour into it. And then before you know it, it's got a life of its own, and it's just too big. And then people start to realize, why do we need the NCAA?
Yeah. And I agree in some respects. The only thing I agree with what you're saying can and probably will happen to some extent. I just disagree with the and it's just might have been the way you said it, the sure thing it is. I believe that his brand being bigger and somewhat, yes, it all depends on if he would go to the NFL, where he would go. Like if he would go to
the best NFL rookie wide receiver right now.
Whoever it is ain't as good as he is.
But who is it?
I don't know.
Because they're not very popular.
Well, that's because they're not that good.
Right. Well, yeah, they are. That I'm gonna tell you what, the receiver for the rookie receiver for the Rams, I can't call his name. He's number 17.
The ones that's as good as Marvin Harrison Jr.
What I'm saying, he's playing receiver as a rookie.
Nakua
at a Pro Bowl level.
Nakua?
Yeah.
Okay.
At a Pro Bowl level.
Right.
He's nowhere near I can't even remember his name.
I agree.
He's nowhere near as popular as Marvin Harrison.
He's never been as good as him. I think Jamar Chase was very popular his rookie year.
Chase's brand right now is as big as Marvin Harrison?
Oh, yeah. I think easily. He's one of the most known receivers in the NFL. And the NFL has the biggest brand there is.
What about Pickens?
Well, no, because he hasn't proven he's as good as any one of them. My only thing with this is I don't disagree with you how big he's going to be, that he's going to be very big. My thought is saying no different than if he's all of a sudden the leading receiver and the best receiver in NFL playing for the Dallas Cowboys, playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the San Francisco 49ers.
No, he's not playing for them.
And I agree. That's what I was saying. Depending upon those are the things I was saying
he's projected to go number 2.
That model, yeah, which will be to the Bears, I guess.
No, not the Bears.
New England?
Maybe New England. Okay. Not the Bears. The Bears right now are in position to pick 1st and 4th.
Okay, 1st and 4th. Because they have Carolina's pick?
Mm-hmm. That will be the number 1 pick.
Okay. Because I know Texans was in it, but then all of a sudden CJ Stroud.
My point in saying that.
I think your point's correct.
If you take the top 20 receivers in the NFL right now, there may be 3 or 4 of them who has a bigger brand than Marvin Harrison has right now at Ohio State, which his brand is only going to get bigger next year because he's going to get – this year was the Caleb Williams year.
Yes.
Next year would be the Marvin Harrison Jr. sweepstakes.
Maybe. Because it depends on how well Jaden – depend on the Heisman Trophy winner, depend on how well he does. And if he continues to perform like he is and better.
I think he's leaving.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if he was leaving. I didn't know he was leaving.
Because
they said Caleb Williams hasn't for sure said he's leaving.
He's projected 1st round.
Yeah, they also said Caleb Williams isn't.
Well, he might not. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. That's my point.
Right. There's money.
They don't need, like, in the past, if you wanted to get paid, as soon as you were eligible for the draft, you were a draftable player, you needed to go so you can get your money.
I heard some figures.
For free.
I heard some figures on the radio not too long ago that somebody made a statement that he could be worth $25 million next year if he stayed in NIL money. Then I heard somebody saying, I don't know if it'd be that, maybe $5 million, something like that. I would have, what's is going to be, what I think is, I don't think Marvin Harrison will make nowhere near as much money as Caleb Williams did next year.
I think he will.
Now, part of that could be because of the position they play. Part of that could be because Caleb Williams was already a transfer and already had some notoriety coming from Oklahoma.
Well, you know what? Also, Caleb Williams has some things going for him.
Being in California.
Is
different than being in Ohio.
And they have different look. They have a different look.
And Ohio State haven't won a national championship, and I don't know when. And
well, Caleb Williams didn't win that championship.
No, what I'm saying is that's the only thing that can boost on an Ohio State player to the level of a player that has that type of notoriety.
I think Marvin Harrison is already there.
Okay.
I think he's there, and I think if you come back,
I've seen him on one commercial.
If you come back
all year,
and you're the front runner,
I've seen Caleb Williams about 3 different commercials.
Because Caleb Williams is this year what Marvin Harrison will be next year.
Okay, and again, that's my point. Next year, if he stays for Ohio State, we will not see him making as much money as Caleb made this year.
I think he will,
and that's what I want to see. So, good talk. So you've got Michigan, I've got Texas winning it all. I did make a statement that I could see Michigan winning. If they beat Alabama, I could see them winning, but I won't pick them. I'll take Texas. I believe Texas is that team. I think they have that talent, put it that way. I think they have the best. They might have the most talented team in college. Those recruiting classes have caught up. Sarkisian,
however. If they caught up next year when they play
that doesn't mean they're better.
Schedule.
That don't mean they're better. It just means that the recruiting talent that they have is top notch, like Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and those.
I want to see how good Oregon actually is too when they come in that Big Ten.
This is true too. That'll be all. Now next year we go to 12, correct?
12 teams in the playoffs.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So the next time we talk about this, I would like to go over the top 12 teams this year. We could either do it before the playoffs, or we can maybe save it for after the national championship and see how it finished. How would those 12 teams have finished if they played each other?
All right, I had enough college football. What's next?
The next topic we want to talk about is the 50th anniversary of hip hop. I mean, they're saying that hip hop has been in existence or on their scene for 50 years. That put us at what, 1973?
Yes.
So 1973. And so we're celebrating an anniversary. First question from me to you and to those out there who might want to comment. What does that mean? Why is that something? Is that something we should celebrate? And if so, why?
I think it's something that we should celebrate for the simple fact that the music industry didn't think hip hop was a sustainable business, a sustainable art form, a sustainable form of income. They thought it was a fad. And being that it's here 50 years later, I think it should be celebrated.
Yeah, I believe it should be celebrated, not only for the reason you said, but because of not only is it here to stay, it has permeated every walk of life in America, whether it's fashion, whether it's talk, meaning how we speak, how we think, how we move. You have these terms called like swag, different people saying they have swag. Those are the type of things. I turned
mine on before I got here.
There you go. Yeah. And so I'm still looking for mine, but I as long as there's an anniversary and we keep acknowledging, I'll find it at some point. But I like that. You can't watch TV, you can't watch movies without hearing the hip hop sound. Without seeing sports. Can't watch sports.
You can't. People don't score a touchdown without some kind of hip hop reference, homage, dance,
I agree.
Reenactment.
And of course, because we're coming very fast up on that time of year again, where we honor, we celebrate, we pay lip service We act fake about the black community. The black
when you say we, you talking
presence.
about the McIntyres?
Somewhat.
You ain't talking about all of us, are you?
I'm talking about almost everyone. Almost everyone in America during Martin Luther King holiday and Black History Month do a whole lot of fake honoring, acknowledging, but more so America tolerates. I just say that because that's what it ends up boiling down to, because you can't have that many celebrations honored, and we supposed to feel so much about the people and the history and the heritage of Black people in America and still have Black America in a predicament it's in. Case in point, who owns hip hop? What community in America is making money off of what is clearly founded in Black communities, in the lowest of Black communities, economically, so to speak, health, in those areas where hip hop came out of, there was no wealth that was in those areas. Yet, something that has generated trillions of dollars in 50 years, let's say hundreds of billions, just to be conservative, in all facets of life, dressing, clothing, like we just talked about, speak, media, movie industry, you name it. Hip hop culture has permeated it, and not have any seeing it in our community, none of that wealth whatsoever. Individuals, yes, there's been some individuals that have made money, but communities as a whole not really benefited from it. You say to that what?
I think you can say that that's not unique to hip hop. I think all of music has that same plight. Rock and roll has the same lineage as hip, but you can trace that back also to the same community. You know what I mean? Little Richard, James Brown, Chuck Berry. You could trace rock and roll back the same way. I mean, it's music. It's not just hip hop. It's the music industry as a whole. Most of it came from jazz and the blues, even and it became what they now call folk music and different things like that. So I agree. People have gotten rich from hip hop that didn't come from neighborhoods where hip hop started, but this is no different than people getting rich from rock and roll. How many songs do you know by Elvis Presley, and how many did he write?
But who got the money from him? And what community do they come from? His community?
No.
What community do they come from?
We know who runs the record label.
You're saying the Jewish community. So you're saying the Jewish community.
Yes.
Okay. And so, and again, that could be true, and that'd be something that I'd want to see, because I would assume, I'm not going to assume, I'm sorry. I don't think every single record company has a CEO that's Jewish. I don't think that every single label, every single promoting agency, whether it's, Live Nation and all them venues, all the people in Hollywood, TV, I don't think they are Jewish. If they are, then that's another conversation, because that means that we're saying what some people say, that the Jewish people own a lot of America. I just never see us anywhere. So my point is, if there's two or three that are not Jewish, but they're Italian, they're American, Jewish American, Italian American, they won't be Black American, but African American, however we want to say that. And the reason I say that is because hip hop.
So you saying we sold our culture?
Or we had it stolen. Now, either way is something that we should look at, because now when you look at it that way, as you said, you talked about rock and roll, we get into all facets of America. What we then have to acknowledge is that we're only talking about 50 years now. That's young.
Yeah.
We ain't learned nothing. Or the people who said that was then, and now we've arrived now, that it used to be bad, or we've come a long way. How long have we truly come if we still having this same type of form of we do the work and somebody else gets paid?
Well, we've taken strides towards ownership And many would be happy that and to say, well, at least we're getting some of the money now. At least some of us are becoming billionaires now. At least we have some influence now. At least we have some power now, some money, so we can give people jobs and we can raise our families. At least we're just not getting completely taken advantage of now. At least we have some of our own record companies now, which I don't know how. Even when you have your own record company, you still have to outsource distribution. But I mean, it's better. We haven't grown as fast as we should have grown, fast as we should be growing. But it's better. It's in a better place now than it was 20 years ago.
And so,
thanks to Master P.
So that's a good thing.
It's a better thing.
It's a better thing.
It's a better. I don't think we haven't arrived. We don't. We're not. We don't. We won't ever catch up. There's been too much lost already. But we can continue to take strides. And once we make the main thing, once we have a generation that's focused on ownership and as opposed to payday, it'll continue to get better.
Except I don't know how we could ever go to that if our answer to what they give us is it's not what they didn't give us before. Meaning, and again, it's hyperbole, whatever anybody want to call it. There was a time, obviously, when, well, at least Master didn't beat us, or at least we were able to eat tonight. Well, at least we eat every single holiday. We get to eat what the leftovers from the big house. Well, Rachel, she's working up in the big house with the Master now. At least some of us are out of the, there's a mentality that we, and again, it's hard to say. I just think we need to acknowledge it to the point of,
you saying, when are we going to become a people then instead of saying, well, that will say, stop doing me better and do me right?
To some extent, because it's hard. I mean, I just think we need to talk about it because it is hard for, like you just said, P. Diddy, Puffy, Jay-Z, Master P, well, really Master P and others, but Master P doing what he did the way he did it. But then you have the billionaires that come, Puffy and these folks. There's never been no one to come to them and say, hey, why don't you guys get together and let's just go half and half with Sony.
That's our problem.
Like
because we all want to be the guy. That's what we say the same thing about the churches around in this area.
Yeah.
We can't come together and do things that we should be doing as a church community because everybody wants to be the guy. Same thing with hip hop. If you think 50 Cent's going to take a back seat to Dr. Dre, or not, that's a bad example.
No. I know what you mean though.
Is going to take a back seat to Puffy, or Puffy take a back seat to Master P? You think Master P is going to take a back seat to anybody, and he feels like I'm the pioneer. I'm the one that showed y'all that you can actually do it yourself.
Well, what I meant by that, when I made that last hypothetical, it was more about the other side. The reason why we don't have is that it's certain things have been taken from us. However, when I mentioned about we're coming up on that time where everybody's supposed to understand and revere Martin Luther King's effort for freedom and to be treated right, why is nobody on that other side able in that spirit to say, yeah, look how blacks have been done. Hip hop is this. Who are the labels that are making the most money? They should be offering those people who have business-wise got into business, offer them stake. No different than we talk about LeBron wants to be an owner. Magic Johnson has got stake in certain areas. Like that has to be the next move in that space is how do we acquire ownership? But the difference between the music industry is it doesn't come together like the NFL does, where there's commissioners, there's a league, things of that nature, even though it's still just as hard, but at least now the group of people are known. Like nobody knows who not Solar, I'm sorry, they're no longer even a company, but Columbia Records or RCA or Warner Brothers or Sony, whoever all the big players are in music industry. But there's never that us allowed to get in there with this so-called appreciation for our culture, knowing that in order to be a vibrant culture and to come out of some of the things we have, we need to have ownership in things. And the one thing we should be able to have ownership is the things that we created. And so it's an interesting question. Hip hop. What is hip hop to you?
Hip hop is
it definable?
Yeah, it's a culture.
Okay.
Hip hop is a culture. It's a way of life. It's a walk. It's a talk. It's a sound. It's a look. It's the DJ in the park. It's the MC. It's the graffiti. It's the breakdance. It's the vibe. Hip hop is the vibe.
And that's what it was created on, or created with, or the people that did those things. Because I don't know that graffiti is a thing now. I think graffiti may have
graffiti is still a thing. They just call it murals.
Okay, it progressed into an art, because now what they've done is now, I guess graffiti before was whatever criminal. What would that be called? I can't remember what.
Everything's
meaning. If you start writing all over something,
everything's criminal until you learn how to package it.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you one day your buildings are littered with graffiti, and the next day you're the city of murals.
Yeah.
One day alcohol's illegal and prohibited. The next day there's a state seal on every bottle.
Yeah.
One day you're under federal indictment for trafficking in marijuana. The next day, the restaurant is turned into a medical marijuana shop.
And somebody's making a whole lot of money legally.
And as soon as they figure out how to package it, it's fine.
And I think the conversation to me is that I'm trying to lead somewhere, hopefully with our platform and other platforms that's going to be on Mac TV, is we need to create a politic with all these things involved in it. So that as we get people that we vote for, or stances that we want, or policies that should be created, they need to be rooted in the things that's tangible to us. And so,
you know what I think the problem is with that is that we have become so passive and comfortable that we're not willing to suffer the amount of suffering that it takes to see our agenda push forward. We're not willing to move into places where we are. You know, there's a plan for all the black people to move back down south, and let's overpopulate the places where we already have a majority. Why are we not all in Atlanta and Charlotte and those places? But because we don't like. You're like, I'm not leaving my job at the plant to go maybe do something that I'm not doing that. Like, so we become too pacified and satisfied to go through the amount of suffering that it takes to see our goals accomplished. So we're just going to take a better version of the status quo.
I know in your role as the president of NAACP, you've had a chance to think and see and be a part of various type of topics and subjects and issues like this. And I've been in that situation before. And it's one of those things where, it's like, and you're also an elder. When we look at the Bible, everything always comes back to us. Like if we ain't right, if I'm not right, if I don't know who to go to, if I don't know what to do and how to be, same thing in our community. Like, that's why voting is so important. It doesn't take sacrifice to vote. I mean, it takes minimal sacrifice to vote. I guess
it doesn't take sacrifice to vote, but it's going to take some sacrifice after you vote to hold the person you voted for accountable to do what they said they were going to do to get your vote. Because we've been in position to put our people in office before, but when they get into office, we're just satisfied with getting them in office. And then when they don't deliver on their promises, we just move on to the next.
Yeah.
So we're not willing to suffer. If you're, there's a saying that says power concedes nothing without struggle. If we're not willing to struggle and suffer and come to a realization that we may not see it happen in us, but we may be able to cause it to happen in the future, If we're not willing to do that, because the people who are in charge now, they were willing to kill and burn and do whatever they had to do to gain the power. And if you think that they're going to give that power that they murdered and pillaged to attain, and they're going to give it because it's fair, you're crazy.
They'd never got it if they were fair. What about hip hop? As you said, it's a culture, and there's many terms to use to describe culture. But I want to get deeper. Is it the music? How is music hip hop?
The music is part of it. The music is
So what would that music be?
All of it's hip hop. Even the rap is hip hop. The beats are hip hop. Just the whole vibe. It's all hip hop. And people will get offended by that because they're like, "Man, this new rap ain't hip hop." Yes, it is. It's like I'm a Jet now. I might not be as solid as the Jet that was jetting way back when Jets was jetting, but I'm still a Jet. Right. I'm a descendant of the Jets. So I'm still that. The new rappers of the day, they're still hip hop. They may not be up to par, and it may not be continuing the mission of what we heard DMC talking about, what he was trying to do, but it's still hip hop.
Right. So then, what makes it hip hop? What makes you say that with confidence like that? Is it as long as it's black, it's hip hop? Is that one way?
No, because there's things that are also black that aren't hip hop. Jazz could be considered black. It's not hip hop. Blues can be considered black, and that doesn't make it hip hop. Hip hop is its own thing. It's not. We started it, but there's somebody can partake in our culture without being us.
Right. Community. Is hip hop the community? Is it a community? Can you be outside of hip hop? If I'm an R&B artist, I'm not hip hop. Maybe I wear hip hop.
By choice. Well, if you wear hip hop, you're hip hop.
Okay.
Because that's part of hip hop. It's a vibe. It's a look. Yeah. If you, it's a walk. It's a talk. It's a sound. It's a display of feeling. It's a whole vibe. There's a gamut of things. You don't have to be a rapper to be hip hop, but every rapper is hip hop.
Is there an importance to it?
Importance to hip hop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Support it. It's historic. It's something that we created, that we nurtured, that impacts the whole world. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things, just like everything. You start to ponder and you think and you wonder, and I can see now why we are where we are, because it's such, I don't know, it's such a debilitating pathology to go down.
Okay.
Because even in the way you explain that, everything is hip hop and hip hop is everything. But you got so many people. You got so many people inside of what we call hip hop will let you know that that's not hip hop. There was people who you would say is hip hop that was in hip hop that said MC Hammer is not hip hop.
I've said the same thing, but I was wrong. And anybody who's saying that is just wrong. All because rap belongs to hip hop. So all rap is hip hop. It might not be the truest vibe that you're looking for in hip hop, but it is hip hop because rap is the son and the product of the culture of hip hop. So all rap is hip hop.
Well, is it possible that maybe rap could have evolved into being its own genre? And like jazz is jazz and R&B is R&B. Could rap just be rap and hip hop is still hip hop, and anything can dip into hip hop, or hip hop can dip in anything else? I say that to say I think I had this conversation with a gentleman that was a bartender, and he was talking about that Eminem is the greatest rapper of all time. And he went on to explain why he's the greatest rapper of all time. And nothing that we talked about when we just talked about hip hop and what you said was hip hop had anything to do with why he said he was the greatest rapper. And it made me think that he don't have to be hip hop. Why can't he just be a great rapper? And he is, and I know that, but my point is, when we had they had the hip hop celebration, you heard, well, this person wasn't invited, or why was that person there? Is there any, I mean, it almost seems like there is no real.
Well, I think now we're splitting hairs as to who's doing the celebrating. Like we're saying the people that were in charge of the party,
or the determination,
they didn't really get it right, because they were celebrating rap and not hip hop, which rap is just one component of the whole of the hip hop culture.
Right.
And so what I think that I was hearing in that is like they kind of dropped the ball. They didn't, hip hop came from the parties and the projects, and when they rolled the speakers, like that's hip hop. It's not just recorded rap. Even though recorded rap is hip hop. So I don't see I don't see it possible to separate rap from hip hop.
And I'm getting a new revelation on it for myself, for my own thinking, because it starts off that way. And then after years, I don't know if it has been changed because it was never clearly defined. But I don't know how you could. I don't know how you could go to China and get the best Italian food there is. I just don't know how you could possibly do that. And if you do, that's where I came with, is it important? Because it's really not important. It's just thought-provoking. Because I watched Evolution, Hip Hop Evolution.
Depends on who's in China.
A Chinese person that's always been in China. So I don't know. I think you have to live a culture to be a part of a culture, to be the culture. And if you don't live the culture, or haven't lived the culture and not from the culture, then what you're doing is just what they say when you can cover a song, but it's not your song. You can try to be like hip hop, but you can't be hip hop.
Well, it depends on what that is, what that looks
culture,
like, what the culture is.
Exactly. Which is why the question:
where does the person? What's his lifestyle? What are his stories? Because you are hip hop, and you are hip hop culture if you're writing and you're telling your own stories. Doesn't matter if you look like the image of the culture. You can still be from that culture. And yes, it can be that black and white, but it can still be nuanced, because that's no different than what happens with country music. That's no different than what happened with the blues. If you're telling your story and you play a song of your story, that's the blues. That's what somebody might say of what blues is. And again, I'm not saying that no other music genre has permeated American society, but the way hip hop has, it's been for only 50 years, it's been a total reimagination of what words are. No different than rock and roll. When rock and roll came in, it had that same effect. But for how long did it have that effect before we had it? And obviously the influence that rock and roll had was the Little Richards. It had the Chuck Berrys. It had those people came from that culture that ultimately led to hip hop culture. So there is some common denominators that go to the things that we call cool, that we call swag, that we call hip hop. And so that's food for thought. We will be having those same type of conversations down the road about a lot of things. And that's why I think it's so important, the dynamics of hip hop culture
in essence, all you're saying is black culture. That's in my opinion.
Before we go, give me your top three.
Yeah,
your top three favorite, not your top three. These are the best. Yeah. Give me your top three favorite MCs.
Well, because that so-called best has been out there so long, I'm going to acknowledge. I don't need it. I just want to put out there some of that. It would have to be Rakim, Tupac, and LL Cool J. Obviously, like when you do it, when anybody does it, there's so many people you'd like to put in there, but you can only do three. So it will be LL Cool J, Tupac, and Rakim.
My three will be also Rakim, Jay-Z, Mos Def.
Nice. Now, I want you to ask me why I got one of mine in there, because I want to ask you why you got one of yours in there.
I know, because I understand. I understand.
I want to know why you have Jay-Z in there.
I just really like Jay-Z.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. And that's good enough. That's good enough. I just was asking. I didn't know if you were going to get into the part about because I think the reason I was going to ask you was, I think similarly, what if is it only about his discography or his albums?
Well,
is that 95% of why you like it?
You mean album sales?
No, not sales, just the what's on those albums. Is it the music that he created is 95% or more of why that's why you chose him?
I don't know if the percentage is that high, because there's more to Jay-Z than that.
Okay.
That I respect.
Okay.
His business mind. I respect his persona, his bravado. I like, you know what I mean? I just like Jay-Z.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Then that's mine, and we want to know yours in the comments. Today we're going to get on when we're back on hip hop. We're going to look at those comments. I'm going to write them all down and see who we got the most people that actually decided to get on the comments. And we're going to kind of, maybe me and Elder will go down and tell you what we think about your top three. We'll tell you if it's trash, like the Lakers, or we'll tell you if it's garbage, like the Steelers. Or we'll tell you got a pretty good group there, but man, is them Steelers and Lakers horrible or what?
Listen, before I get at you, before you bring me down, while we're in the vein of hip hop, I cannot discuss hip hop and not give a shout out to my Uncle Wu, Dawood Abdullah. My brother took me on one of the most impactful hip hop moments in my lifetime. And that's saying a lot, because there was no hip hop before there was a me. And my brother took me to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to do an interview with Paradise Gray. Paradise Gray was one of the original members of X-Clan. He was also there with Africa Bambaataa and Soul Sonic Force at the very birth of hip hop. We did an amazing interview, and it would not have been possible without Dawood. So I wanted to give shout out to Dawood. Good deal, brother
Wu, Uncle Wu. Shout out also to Uncle Wu, and I agree with my shout out is going to be not as personal, but if you guys never watch Drink Champs on Revolt TV, Drink Champs is Noriega and DJ EFN. And they do interviews, and man, they did an interview with DMC from Run DMC, Daryl McDaniels, and man, seeing him on that interview, I think it's about a 4-hour interview, so you can treat it like a book. Watch a half hour at a time, but it's captivating. And when he goes into his bars and his remembrance of everybody from that generation of African Bambaataa and the
shout out Horsefly too.
Horsefly. And when he goes into that and he starts talking about how lyrics are put together and how hip hop started and who the forefathers of hip hop are.
Shout out Nice and Smooth.
It's really, and he even goes into how he said, what was it, Treacherous 3, Grandmaster Flash, and all those guys before him, how they, got their music Melly started. Melly Mel, of the Grandmaster Flash. Then he said after they became big, next thing you know, a new rap came out, a new culture came, a new set of artists came out, and they were starting to go downhill, and CL Smooth came to him, and they did Down with the King.
You know what? While you in that,
Yeah.
have you ever watched a documentary about Grandmaster Flash?
No.
And how they go check that out.
But I seen Hip Hop Evolution, which had them in it.
Watch how they did
the message.
Well, Grandmaster Flash came up with the whole vibe, the whole concept, and then they just weeded him out.
Oh, you mean of rap, or hip hop,
of even his group.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see that. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history in those things because, you know, it lets you know what the birth of this was and how, when you watch things like that, it's amazing. It's just amazing how that you start to see that even if you make something new, what you're making that's new is inside of a system that's already built to suck that out. Because even when you watch Kanye West's documentary, you see his genius early on and what he knew he was and his confidence of what he was trying to make. If guys like that have just been their own business and just once, you know, it's just amazing.
Selling some of yourself because you don't have the resources.
Because you don't have the resources.
And there's nobody, and we in our community, we're terrible with this. We're the only community that does it. We're gatekeepers of our own success.
Yep.
And we want to see somebody pay dues and all that. And other cultures just listen. It's like we own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got it. I'm like, I got it. You got it.
Yep.
I'll help you build so you can have your own, and then we'll help him build it. Our culture's not like that.
And that's a pathology that we have to understand, see it for what it is, see it when it's happening, and turn it away, resist it, comment on it, talk about it. It's the only way we can come out of it, because we just keep recreating and redoing the same things that we always do. Like we don't understand history. We don't see history for factual. We see history. We see historical references as books and novels, and I guess just used to be and has nothing to do with, you know, the present and stuff. But anyway, that Drink Champs interview with Daryl Max is one of the best they've done, and it's a long one. Again,
if you don't know who he's talking about, Daryl Max, he's talking about DMC from Run DMC.
Yes, Jam Master Jay, and he talks about how they got started, what was before them, what's been since, how it all created, and he makes a statement that there's no hip hop without a DJ. So he's talking about the actual music portion of hip hop, but he's also saying that music highlighted a culture, and the things that was in that culture at the time, the graffiti, the breakdancing, all the things, the way you wore your clothes and how you decided to wear what you wear. To me, it's not what you wear, it's the decision that you make to wear is acceptable, because hip hop culture has created that your creativity is important. Before that, you had to wear what the designer said you had to wear. So if you're a great designer, that designer would say what was great. When hip hop came along, people from the streets wore what they wore, and they made that popular. And now that you can see on the same runway, you can see that on the runways in Paris. I digress. We're going to get out of here. We're going to close on this episode of the Mac and Jet Live. And again, I'm Mac.
I'm Jet.
And we thank you for tuning in. Again, subscribe to the Mac TV network. Like these shows, comment on these shows, because we will soon be going live where you'll be commenting live. So get into practice of looking for us, listening to us, and being able to dialogue with us. And so we're all done here, and we just want to say peace out.
Peace.